Hey everybody, welcome back to Deck 10. The turbo lift doors have opened. You've walked out into the hallways of, we'll call it Titan. That's where we are every week. The Titan is the home of Star Trek Picard Season 3, the home of us. And since they always turn on the holodeck before walking into it, we don't know what the style is. Is it Voyager? Is it like you with the grids? I don't know. I don't know. I don't know.
Th-
Will we find out?
This,
Let's
this
go.
is this is what's in my head canon.
It's a
So,
it's a it's a lingering question that's going to exist throughout the entire season, and it will probably not get answered.
but don't worry, they're always on.
But it's always on. It's got a separate independent power source, just in case we're at a disaster and everybody just needs to go get a drink.
Yeah,
Turn on the jukebox. Maybe go fight in the Alamo. I don't know exactly what you need to do.
well, I love these new priorities.
Yeah, whatever's going to take the edge off. I think Voyager might have set the standard when it comes to that. When it comes to just always being in the holodeck in a time of need and disaster. Tom Paris was definitely well known for just always having one running. I feel like being Irish. I feel like being on a tropical island. I feel like writing my own thing. And then the doctor got jealous, wrote his own hollow novel, and we had a fun episode. One of my favorites of Voyager. I'm hoping that last week we had the hollow emitter situation with Rafi.
Okay.
Last week she was wearing there was a holographic
Oh
projection
yes,
of
yes, yes, yes,
Rafi,
yes, yes,
and then
yes.
the Vulcan knocked it off her body and it went
Yeah, yeah,
clinking
yeah.
down. It was the exact style of what they had Robert Picard wearing, as if it was his hollow emitter. And there's just this part of me deep inside that wants that guy to get activated before the season's over.
I hope. Well, like you said, there was rumor, but we will have to wait and see.
We will have to wait and see. You can never trust what these actors say.
Hopefully they don't pull an Enterprise. And by the way, I liked Enterprise,
Yeah.
but the whole this has been Riker playing.
Our series finale is actually just nestled into a pedantic, basic pedestrian episode of The Next Generation.
Yeah, yeah. That's like, oh.
Okay, no, lame, weak, and then they killed Trip. No, no fun. Spoiler alert: Trip dies.
Mhm.
Uh, but no cherished characters died on Picard this season. Not or this episode yet.
Yeah.
Ro. We lost Ro last week. This week we didn't. I can't think of really anybody that we lost.
Well,
Did we lose
as
somebody?
as you know, as you know in other genres and other television series, no one's ever really dead.
Dead ain't dead. She got sucked into the mirror universe.
We
She
don't know. She could have gotten beamed out.
she got pushed 3,000 years into the
Yeah,
future or
she,
whatever.
there
She's
was
gonna
there
go hang
was
out in the last season of Discovery.
yes, there was some subspace anomaly.
If we can regrow Hugh, not Hugh the Borg, but Hugh from Discovery from intergalactic
Oh,
mycelium,
oh yes, yes, yes.
Culber. I think then if we could regrow Culber in the mycelium network, we can find a way to
Yeah,
resurrect Roe. Easy stuff, and we can do it the lower deck way and just not explain how. He's just back.
yeah.
He's just back.
Just have, by the way, one of the recent episodes of Investigates that Gates McFadden does audio podcast,
Okay.
and she interviewed Jack Quaid, and they got into the whole Boimler scream or yelp,
Yeah.
and they broke it down and talked about, it's like, oh, that's an element of what they refer to as clowning, an element of,
Mm-hmm.
acting. And I'm just sitting there, I'm just fascinated, but the whole time, of course, I'm hearing in my head Boimler going, ah! Um, but yeah. Anyway, I just
Oh, well, that's neat though. I mean,
if you're not, by the way, okay. So if the tie-in here is, if you haven't heard of Investigates, type it in. Type in Investigates Gates
Gates.
McFadden. You'll find it.
Investigates. Oh my
It's
god.
awesome.
That's brilliant. What brilliant branding. Oh my god, Gates
It
McFadden.
is an audio podcast, which I found it was interesting because it forces me to engage a little differently
Mm-hmm.
than a video. Um,
Yeah.
because I'm sitting there and I'm listening, but at the same time I'm like, pause, look this up.
I get that. I understand. I watch the TV. I watch TV the same way. Being able to pause a live broadcast is definitely lengthen the amount of time it takes for me to get through something sometimes. Uh, oh man. But Gates McFadden she was at the convention you just went to, right?
Yes, yes. In fact, I just got my picture taken with Gates, and it was interesting because she was doing selfies at her autograph table. But when it came time to do the professional photographs, I actually had to stand on. I had a mark that I had to
Oh,
stand on.
okay.
Um,
How Hollywood.
I know it was. I was like, make sure to hit my mark. Um, but she wanted some. Apparently, one of the previous conventions she was previously at, she did get some con crud, or hopefully it wasn't COVID, but
Oh yeah.
so she was just taking a bit of precaution. But I wish I could have videotaped it, but they don't. They really don't want you doing videos at the autograph tables.
Right.
But hang on,
Oh.
when I brought Johnny out,
Oh my god. So this is Patrick Stewart, but posed like Ian Malcolm from Jurassic Park.
this is obviously inspired from after the wardrobe change
his,
from Darmok
his
and
captain
Jalad,
jacket. His
and he
captain
just doesn't
jacket.
have the undershirt on. But anyway, but yes, I got Gates's signature
Oh.
on it this weekend, and I do have Frakes was right next to her, but he did sign it previously
Uh-huh.
on another
Okay.
occasion.
Yeah.
This thing has been circulating since the 90s. I've only been in possession of it for a few years. A friend of mine passed away, and her son made sure I had this so it could keep making the rounds.
That's awesome.
So
by now, does it
but
have everybody from the next generation?
no,
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 who's
it
missing?
doesn't. Let's see. Okay, so I'll try to speed through this. Susie Plaxton, Kilar signed his forehead. Anne Crispin, an author. Whoops.
Okay. It's okay.
Signed
Your
there. Let's see.
your holographic projectors are malfunctioning.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Robert O'Reilly.
Oh yeah, go run.
Michelle Forbes.
Yeah. Hey, look at that.
And
Appropriate.
George Takei, of course, had to get the tummy.
Right there on the navel.
There's several in here I don't recognize.
Mhm.
Jennifer Hetrick got the crotch. Armin Shimmerman on the leg.
Hey.
René Aubergenois on another part of the leg. Tony Todd on the foot.
Now that's a good one.
Let's see, who was on the back? Mark. It's hard to see; it won't translate on the camera. Mark Okrand, another author.
I've read a couple of his books.
Alex, before he changed his Sadiq, before he changed his name.
Okay.
So it's got his original signature.
Oh, okay. Neat. So this is like from the first 3 seasons of Deep Space Nine.
Yeah. Majel Barrett got one of the butt cheeks.
Oh, very nice.
And like I said, there are a couple in here I just can't recognize just because they faded over time a little bit. But yeah, it's like I don't have Brent's not on here.
No.
Dorn's not on here. Will isn't on here. I don't know if I feel a little weird asking Will Wheaton to sign this one. But anyway, it was, and plus this convention was 2 hours and change away from us, so we could drive to it. Didn't have to deal with air travel and stuff like that.
Awesome. Oh my gosh, it must have been amazing.
Yeah, and we only went for the Friday.
Okay.
But I was like super paranoid, like the thought of taking Johnny on through air travel, whether it's through a checked bag or a carry-on, it just freaks me out because there's
too
so
high of a
much
risk.
history to this object.
I know, and it's like personal history too. Like I'm not even thinking about any sort of like monetary value from the Star Trek treasure in your hands. No, but just like the personal.
You know what? One of these is supposed to be Marina, because I was in line at, I think it was, they called it Volcon in Timonium or Towson, Maryland. And it would have been in the late 90s, early 2000s. I was in line when my friend handed it to Marina Sirtis.
Oh.
And I'm not seeing that. So that's got to be on here somewhere. So anyway,
I trust it.
I'll have to take it to a hollow imager for further analysis.
hey, I mean, you could just send it to me, and I'll add a couple of autographs on there, authentic or not. I'll add a few names. Read this Ferengi style.
I did also. I also was able to, like I said, we were there briefly. Got to sit on, listen to Jonathan Frakes' Q&A panel.
Yeah,
and it was interesting because the moderator is not a diehard fan, So apparently she hadn't seen yesterday's episode, and or sorry, what day are we on now? We're on
It's
Saturday. Sorry,
Saturday now,
Thursday's
so
episode.
Thursday's
I
episode.
was there yesterday.
Episode, what is it, 5, 6? Oh, gosh.
6.
Oh, the
And
bounty.
but anyway, there was a lot of teasing going on
Uh-huh.
because they were trying to find the Frakes and the moderator. They were trying to find their chemistry and stuff
Yeah.
like that. So it was that was interesting to watch. But he brings up the spoiler of the episode being that we finally get to see Geordi.
Spoiler alert.
Yes, and of course I'm there like, are we not going to talk about Marina? Because was it her? Was it not her?
Oh, see? Oh, gosh. That wasn't even a question I even thought of. Oh, my God.
Mhm. Oh, the conspiracy theories are
Oh, my
crazy.
goodness. And I love it. I love the fact that the conspiracy theories are crazy because that means people are invested. They're
Oh yeah.
watching. They're excited to see how it unfolds. Hopefully, they're not complaining. I haven't really climbed into I climbed out of the Star Trek fan base a number of years ago when it comes to just reading the comments and all of that, just because it's just been so unfun.
Uh,
For me at least. I never found the pockets of positive, you know? I only came across the people that were just tremendous detractors.
I'm finding it for clear reasons, and I attribute a lot of that to Terry Metalis.
Mm-hmm.
That this is what happens when you get a fan. Somebody said something recently about fans writing and directing episodes. But anyway, this is what happens when you get a fan that loves the material.
Yeah.
They're not, I mean, it's like you can have someone who's expert in directing and writing, but if the love of the material isn't there, it shows. And the
Handed the
love of the
keys to Star
material is
Trek. Oh,
the love of the material is showing in this season.
and to have the power, to be given the cue power of running a Star Trek show where you're able to go, you know what? I don't like the fact that we just buried Kirk under a bunch of rocks on Viridian 3. All right? Section 31 figured that stuff out very quickly. They had Kirk DNA detectors throughout the galaxy, just waiting for a blip to show up on their radar.
I'm curious. Oh, so okay, so let's just jump right
We're
into
jumping
that.
right into it, all right? If you haven't watched the
Um,
episode yet, why are you watching this show?
I try to make notes of things that I noticed, but then even after watching a third time, as I was watching reviews
Yeah.
from Paramount, from I don't know if I saw any, noticed any in Ready Room, but anyway, there were things that I didn't see on the broadcast version that I'm seeing in some of the more official reviews. So I don't know if that's editing or what. But the things I did pick up on was the Thalaron device that was used in Nemesis in the Senate
Oh,
floor.
okay. Yeah, I didn't catch
There was
that
an
one.
image of that. Of course, if you didn't notice Genesis, then just
Then you're crazy.
leave. Just you don't belong here. You're not a fan.
So I had to go
Um,
back 2 times to watch that sequence just to make sure I was reading all the little digital plaques and stuff. Because first I was like, "What?" But my brain wasn't comprehending what was going on fast enough. You know,
mhm.
it was like there was a body, but and then my brain was like, "What is this bomb? What is this body?" Without even like expanding to the text. You know, I was just in the moment so much, which is rare for me when it comes to watching TV. And so I had to go back and be like, you know what, this has to be some stuff. And then I'm
Mhm.
like, the Genesis device, what the hell? USS Enterprise, Captain James T. What is this?
Well, again, it was obviously the original Genesis device
Well,
got
yes.
used.
Somebody
But it did
recreated
say
it.
Genesis device 2.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
That unstable
there
proto
was,
matter. We never got over the problem.
yeah, yeah. There was allegedly a vinculum in the
Okay,
background
okay.
in one of the shots, which is what enables all the Borg to talk to one another and communicate. Um,
And
and
capture.
that was further established in Elite Force, Star Trek Elite Force. For
Yeah.
anyone that played that,
hmm
I made
and
notes
the
for it.
vinculum was the device that made Seven of Nine break down the walls of all of the personalities that she had assimilated over her Borg lifetime.
Oh yeah, there, yeah, yeah. So we had
Yeah.
that story too. Um, of course, there's the attack tribble,
Yes.
which I now I want to own one.
Apparently, from what I understand, this is what it was, a genetically modified, genetically
Yes.
engineered tribble.
Yes.
For whatever reason, we needed to make it an attack tribble. I don't know. But
I'm,
already the bane of Klingon existence. Do we
I
really
have
need to
I
give
have a
them
feeling
teeth?
that Worf may need a wardrobe change after that scene happened.
I'm hoping the attack
Um,
tribble comes up later.
yes, the I loved the introduction of it. It may have seemed a little heavy-handed, but I loved the introduction of Riker calling out the notes uh,
So
when
yeah, I
when that
mean,
was introduced.
we can all right. So first things first. But before we get into Riker's epic discovery of who the AI that's running the security is, these little Easter eggs, these little moments, these little things that they've thrown into just the walk through Daystrom. First things first. When I didn't realize the Daystrom station was Area 51. I didn't know that.
Yeah,
You know, because throughout Star Trek's history, they've always been like, oh, this high end research facility and all that. They never really, until here, at least in my memory and experience, haven't really shown Daystrom to be like this hub of just the most extreme tech that's out there.
yeah,
Kind of like a black site area 51, like I just
yeah.
referred to a moment ago. So that was really cool. That was neat to have them go through and see all of these dangerous things from yesterday uh, being put. Excuse me. Excuse me. To be put in the proverbial Indiana Jones crate in the museum, you know.
Top man.
um,
The
Kirk's bones. Clearly, Picard's body was put there. We had all the things that you listed, and just my little fanboy heart. And this was only the first time that they made my little fanboy heart go aflutter in this episode, because this thing was completely jam packed with visuals from previous series of Star Trek. Because we had Daystrom Station, but then we also had the Fleet Museum. And all this
oh,
time, I thought that Geordi was going to be at Daystrom, because to me, that just made perfect sense to me. You know, he's like some sort of propulsion expert, something or other, working at Daystrom, pushing the boundaries of tech. That's not the case. No, he's practically retired running a museum because he's afraid his kids are going to get blown up in some sort of Star Trek adventure.
yeah.
Neat. But there, the Fleet Museum. Did you write down all of the ships that were in the Fleet
No,
Museum?
I
Or
did,
okay, you were
but
having too much
I
of a
did
thing.
notice the HMS Bounty was not the only Klingon ship. There
Mm-hmm.
was a D7 cruiser in
Okay.
there right next to it.
Okay.
I'm not sure if that was supposed to be a specific one, but I did see that. The I think there was a steam runner somewhere down in the distance on a lower level.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, there might even have been an Akira class.
I am sure there's a YouTube
Um,
video out there that has just freeze framed the hell
I'm
out of
sure.
that
I have no
sequence.
doubt.
And it's like, this
Um,
is the Defiant from the Mirror Universe. They
the
somehow
one
towed it.
that I got a little confused on, and I have a memory gap on, is the New Jersey.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm trying to were they saying that was the last Constellation class, not Constitution class? I don't know. I was just a little curious as far as the significance in
I think that they just wanted to
TV
show the
slash movie
model.
series, what the significance of that ship was.
I think they just wanted to show the model.
And it could,
you
that's
know,
fine. That's fine. They're all
they're like,
pretty.
well, they can't do that. I don't know. I appreciated Enterprise A because, like, of course it would be in the Fleet Museum. The last time we saw it was flying off to Neverland with Kirk, at the end of Star Trek 6. His final order on the bridge of that thing was to take it to the second star to the right and
Yeah.
straight on until morning, right?
Yes.
So I guess that's the Fleet Museum. I never even thought about what happened to that ship after that moment. And
Yeah.
like I said in previous podcasts, if you haven't watched it, go back and watch it on YouTube, folks. The original series movies was my introduction to that crew and
Yeah.
to those
Mhm.
adventures. And so the TOS movies is the original series, essentially, to me in my little fan heart. So to see my Enterprise, my Kirk's Enterprise, up there, the refit, and not
Yeah.
the one with the little swirly red boobies. Um, that Captain Pike is flying around right now. That was neat. That was cool. That was awesome. I loved it. Absolutely, 100%. Amazing. And I got to give kudos to them taking all of the time that they did to just love on Star Trek.
That was going back to what we what I had brought up in the last time we talked was about like the decision of do we spend money on this special effect, or do we spend money on this story dialogue?
Mm-hmm.
And clearly, they were spending money on effects, and I'm grateful for it, just because they could tell so much so quickly, and they know that a lot of us dorks are going to go back and keep rewatching to catch all these half a second
Just
little
little moments.
yeah.
Just these little moments of just like I said, just loving all over Star Trek. But they didn't do it in a way that was just like, here's your Easter egg for the week. They didn't do it in a way that was just like, here's a
No, there
moment
was a
where,
full on egging.
well, yes, it was definitely a full on egging. But on top of that too, it wasn't just like, okay, we're pausing the story because we have decided that we're going to dedicate the next 5 minutes to just showing you imagery from before. They bonded Seven and Jack through
Oh
this.
yeah,
They gave us an insight into Seven of Nine's mind and heart, when it came to her time on Voyager, because that was very real. That was her family.
yeah.
And see, she's searching for a new one, which also then makes me very sad to think that she's not as close to Tuvok or Paris or
Yeah.
the people
Or
on
Chakotay.
Voyager anymore. Definitely not Chakotay. She's never even mentioned that guy.
Yeah.
What a flash in the pan waste of time.
Yeah. The they're clearly, if you've gotten this far into season 3 and you have not picked up the bludgeoning that they're doing with the whole this is about family, then you're not listening, you're not paying attention.
Everybody is doing this and talks about family. Every character,
There,
except
and
for
it's
Shaq.
just it's interesting how they're paralleling so many different um this is this person's experience with family, and this is this character's experience with family. um I'm liking it's like at least in every episode there's a contrast between two different people's experience
Mm-hmm.
on this same theme.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, just brilliant, brilliant. Everywhere you go. I don't even know what else to say. I mean, they swooped through a bunch of ships and turned it into an emotional beat between two characters. My God. My
Yeah.
God. And I just love the reminders of where Seven of Nine came from, where she has been, how she has grown. I really also appreciated just Jerry Ryan in that moment too, because there was just an element of just like real nostalgic feels for being on that set during that
Yeah.
time of playing this character's life. On top of, you know what else I noticed? When she walks around going like captain and taking orders and all that kind of stuff, I get way flashbacks to just like, Voyager itself. Like her ability from the first two seasons of not being Starfleet
Mm-hmm.
to being Starfleet again, I think is great. And I don't know if it's talked about in the podcasting world or by the fandom or anything like that. But Wild Fenris Ranger 7 versus First Officer 7, there's a real difference.
Yeah. Yeah.
There is a real difference there, and I am for it, and I love it, and I want her to keep on wearing that uniform. I think it's right.
Yeah.
Isn't it right? It feels right. Oh,
The I think the Fenris Ranger version of 7 was you're going to listen to me because I'm going to save your life, whereas the Commander Hansen slash 7 is please listen to me because I'm trying to save your life. So but anyway, yeah, they're very interesting contrasts
I'm
of the
with it.
same
I'm
character.
with it.
So
And this episode we definitely majorly bonded Jack to his growing family. It was just him and his mom for the longest
yeah,
time, and now he's finding himself, caring for his dad
yeah,
more than he's probably willing to admit.
yeah.
He clearly he and Sydney have a little thing going,
Oh, stay away from my daughter, Dad.
Unlucky and low Geordi keeping his daughter away from men. Terrible, terrible, terrible. Also on that though, I didn't realize this before, and I should have, but Sydney and Alondra, I think their
Mhm.
names are the names
Yes,
of the daughters that they said in All Good Things in the future.
I. You know what? I heard that. I didn't go back and look at it, but I believe that I'll take the
So
word
again,
that,
more love
that's
to
what it
Star
was.
Trek. Exactly what we were talking about. This is what happens when you put a fan in charge. But then that assumes that they have a brother out there as well. because Geordi had three
Oh,
kids in the future, one boy and two girls.
but was that
That was
in
Q's
all good
future, so
things?
who
Had they
knows?
in all good things had they paired him with
He,
Brahms,
he
with
said
Leia Brahms?
Leah, but there was no. It was he didn't say Leah Brahms,
Okay,
and there's a lot of people out there that are like, you couldn't have put Leah and Geordi together after the fact. It was too creepy for her, and she was married.
yeah, yeah,
Like you
yeah,
can't. We're gonna dissolve all of that off screen, and Geordi actually winds up with her. It just doesn't taste like the right future.
yeah, yeah. But so by the way, speaking of talking about futures, the fact when they're going through the ships and they're talking about the HMS Bounty,
Yeah,
and Jack's like, "Oh yeah, the whole whale thing,"
yeah.
and I was like, that was a bit cheeky, but at the same time, it's like, okay, I'll take it. I'll
I'll
take
take
it.
it. I'll take it. The HMS Bounty, that thing being there. Oh my God! I thought they were. I was like, I was so hopeful, and they didn't give it to me, but I was so hopeful that they were gonna climb aboard that effing ship and fly it back to Daystrom and have this sequence of the Next
Oh,
Generation crew on the bridge of the HMS Bounty, because we
that
had
would have
so many
been.
scenes from Star Trek 4 of them on that Klingon bridge.
Hmm.
Oh my God! It would have just been really like just super neat to be, because Star Trek traditionally, not until like this season of Picard, hasn't played inside of its own past much. They had that
Hmm.
episode of Deep Space Nine where they, the Tribble episode, or Deep Space Nine,
Sure, yeah,
where they put the actors on top of the original series episode, which was
yeah.
super fun. But generally speaking, like all of these people winding up on the HMS Bounty, or seeing Voyager in the Fleet Museum, or having other characters from other series showing up on a current one isn't really something that Star Trek has done outside of Picard.
Mhm.
And I love it. And it's amazing, and I want them to continue playing in their own history like this.
Well, I'm wondering when Alondra interrupts Commodore
Commodore
LaForge
LaForge.
and says, what about Hangar Bay 12? And
Yeah,
it's like, okay, wait, was that something that we didn't get to see,
I
or
don't
is
think
that
so.
where the Titan parked? I wasn't sure if she was saying, let's hold them here,
Hmm.
or we have something over here that they could
I,
use.
I took it as we have something that they can use.
Yeah,
But they didn't, because they took the cloaking device instead. And
yeah.
Geordi's like, You're not going to blow up the ship. God dang it, don't blow up the ship. Fine, I'll help you."
I felt, by the way, I felt really super seen as a viewer, as a
Oh,
fan, as a
okay.
human when I don't even remember who said it when Sydney and Jack are trying to hook up the cloaking device
Yeah,
and it's sparking. I think it was Jack that said it. I don't think it's supposed to do that.
right.
It's like that is my entire career
I don't think it's supposed
of
to do that.
trying to make the impossible work in technology
Hmm.
and being like, yeah, it shouldn't do that.
I didn't realize that you could hook up a cloaking device onto a Federation starship in under an hour, though. That's pretty neat.
Did and okay, I'm going to assume they took either one, they couldn't get to the one on the Defiant, or it was deinstalled.
So the original Defiant blew up in the Dominion War.
Yeah,
So
technically
and
that was the Sao Paulo.
Yeah, so that was the Sao Paulo that's there, which was awesome. Oh my God, I love the Defiant so much because I'm just such a Deep Space Nine dork. But so the original Defiant blew up, and the cloaking device on that Defiant was on loan from the Romulans. So if the
Yes.
Romulans didn't loan Starfleet another one, then there just wouldn't be another one to put on that Defiant. It's not like a cloaking device was standard for the Defiant class starship.
No, 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 no. You're correct. You're
Yeah.
correct. But I'm pretty sure they used it when the ship was
So
recommissioned.
the last time that they used the cloaking device on Star Trek Deep Space Nine was in like season 6
Okay.
or 5.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. So
I definitely will take your word for
yeah.
that because I'm pretty sure
Now I
you
don't know
have
exactly
more
when the last
DS9
time
views
was
than
or
me.
anything like that, but they did do a bunch of cloaking. They didn't.
Okay.
I mean,
Okay.
listen, I'm opening myself up to the comments for people to just angrily tell me that I was wrong because in the Battle of Chintaka, they used the cloak and the blah yada blah blah blah. It just became so not important once the actual war started happening.
Yeah.
If they had the cloaking device, they could have just zipped through enemy lines
Oh
and did
yeah.
all kinds of different like. war things than they actually did.
It actually came up during the panel
Hmm.
at the convention that I just attended for part of a day.
Yeah.
Jonathan Frakes, someone actually posed the question, and I don't remember the exact question, but it was basically, you know, that time you did that thing and it was in direct conflict with the other time you did that thing.
Yeah.
How do you resolve that? And the way Frakes worded it, I find is interesting
Okay.
because it's very similar to something Tony Moore from Dish and Days review said. He frequently said, you know, open arms
Hmm.
when it comes to, we're going to do this crazy thing, but it makes the story work, and just roll with it. And that's essentially what Frakes said about Star Trek. He's like, a lot of times, you know, we'll go to the director, we'll go to the writer, and be like, how can you say this when the last time it was this?
Hmm.
And he says, but he's, you know, and then he reinforced that with Terry being such a fan of the show that there are times where he'll be like, can we do this a little differently?
Yeah.
This doesn't quite work for the scene. So a lot of times it's a balance of what works great for the drama of the
Yeah.
scene and what's going to get fans so stuck that they can't move on to the next scene.
Yes. Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, and that it makes sense. That makes total sense. It's got to be a difficult balance, especially with a show that's as old as Star Trek is,
Mm-hmm.
because there's barely a turn that you can take that the show hasn't already kind of explored in some
Uh-huh.
capacity. That's why they sent Discovery all the way 400,000 years into the future, still doing the same thing with a different costume, different tech set, but we needed to get out of people complaining about what we're doing. Uh, I get it. It must be one of the most stressful and rewarding things to be able to pull it off and
Yeah.
have people like it. I just looked it up on the internet, and they stopped using the cloak so much on Deep Space Nine when they wrote into the series that the Dominion was able to detect them.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So they just kind of went,
I'll take it. The by the way, I did want to point out about when you were talking about when they were reviewing when Seven and Jack were reviewing the different starships. But Jack, right before that, Jack goes to sit down. Only half a cheek is on the chair,
no,
and, and she's like off.
get up.
I would have loved for him to have made a spinny comment about the chair, but that may have been too soon because it was like just an episode or two ago that Jerry Ryan had made the comment about the chair. So the maybe I missed it, but when they were talking about this amalgam, and
Hmm.
I don't know if you wanted to jump into this
We
yet or
can jump
not,
wherever you
but
want. This is deck 10, all
they're
right?
talking
We are the
about,
twisted ship of plot. We can go
yes,
anywhere at any time. We
the
can go
shattered
back, we can
ship.
go
Yes.
forward, we can go into another series, we can start speculating. We can do whatever you want, Matt.
When they talked about this amalgam, this new next gen
This next generation
um,
data.
of of
This android, this living
positronic
android.
science,
Yes.
and they mentioned I'm glad they brought up Lal, but I didn't see Lal represented.
I did not see it,
We
not yet.
clear Yeah, we clearly got elements of B4 and lore and data.
Yes.
But the fact that they mentioned Lal, and I'm hoping, I don't know if they'll be able to make that distinction and be able to make it work. But
It'll be, we will see. I don't know, because Lao's matrix completely destabilized and stuff. So is it did the personality of Lao, was that able to recover, or is it
yeah,
just the experience, the emotion,
yeah.
the
Was it just a
whatever it
copy?
is?
Yeah,
You know
was a
that.
copy of video highlights
Yes,
got
baked into
integrated.
the experience that this new android is pulling from. So I was sitting there, I was watching this thing, and I didn't. And once again, Picard is taking me on a ride where I don't know, where I believe one thing, and then a second passes, and I believe another thing, and then another scene happens, and then now I'm believing something else. Like, they're so good at taking me on this journey, because they walked in there, and I went, "Oh, they found lore," and then they started talking about stuff, and I'm like, they they found something else, okay? And then
Yeah.
they kept on talking, right? And then I'm like, you know what? If this is data, I'm with it,
Uh huh.
okay?
Hmm.
I'm not going to sit here and complain that data's bad. I am with this. And for them to go in the direction where they're pretty much putting all of the characters that Brent Spiner ever played into one body is neat, because they have Alton Sung in there as well.
Yes, yeah. Well, and on top of that, this isn't the traditional android.
No, this is the
This is
living
a
one,
yeah.
the
This is a
life model
human.
decoy, if you
Yeah,
will.
this is a human high positronics synth. So yeah, I'm loving where they could go
It
with
is,
that.
it is the fleshy Cylon, is what it is.
Oh,
You know.
oh no! Don't get too confusing. I know what you're saying, but don't.
So from there's a million different directions to be looking at this
Yeah.
in. I love it. I think it's amazing. In the short moment that we already had at the end of the episode, where he's turning on and he's Data first, and then he becomes Lore, and then he becomes B4, and Brent Spiner is hitting all of these beats that he had played as these androids in the past,
Oh
as
my
if
god! In
no
one
time.
take, and if it's not one take, kudos to the editors.
Just what an amazing ride. Absolutely loved it. I cannot wait to see what comes up, because Data's going to be helpful, B4 is going to be dumb, Lore's going to be in the way. Who's going to win? Ultimately Data, right? And while
Oh,
he's Data, you guys, Matt and the audience, since he's in this life model synth positronic body, guess who has finally achieved his dreams?
Brad Spiner never having to put on the makeup again.
Yes. Well, I think they still. Well, he still has to do the hardest part,
He's
which
got
is put the
contacts,
thing in his
but
eyes. But no, Data's essentially
human.
human.
Yeah.
These bodies don't last forever. It has an
Mhm.
endpoint. It's fleshy. It can get injured. It is not made of robot parts. It is not super strong. I don't know if that means that Data isn't going to be able to think as fast anymore, because he's got a brain, or at least one that was
Who
grown in a
knows?
dish. Is that an implication that hasn't been discussed yet?
Yeah.
Is his brain still as fast? We may never know. Maybe we do want to know. I don't know.
So yeah,
Oh
so
my
much for
god.
those. What was it? Trillions of calculations a second,
Yeah, something like that.
or whatever it was. The
Oh,
I also have to, again, having just come from a fan convention. Um, I loved the scene um, where, gosh, why am I blanking on his name right now?
because
The captain of Titan.
Captain Shaw.
Who?
Captain Shaw. Captain
Shaw.
William
Oh my god.
Shaw.
Thank you. Oh my
You didn't
god.
have much to say in the last episode. It's okay.
But yeah, he was off checking the holodecks or something
Right.
for most of the episode. But anyway, where he meets Geordi,
Mhm.
and just he's total fangirling about it. And by the way, that's not, I don't mean that derogatory, because I would use that to describe me with some people. But the whole thing, like where Geordi's like, first of all, why did he say 21st century duct tape? Does that imply that there's 24th century duct tape or
Programmable
25th?
matter, I think, probably took over duct
Oh
tape
yeah,
at
that's
some
true.
point.
Yeah, good point. Good point. So anyway, but he's like, I would love to geek out with you over this, and Shaw is like,
Just
loved
yes. The more
it.
the more they remove Shaw from being in authority,
Hmm.
the more like the happier the guy is. Like, get him out of the captain's chair. He does not want to be there.
It's yeah. That seems to be more and more, especially with this episode. It seems to be very clear that it's like
He doesn't want to run a
this was
starship.
this was an inevitability that he accepted
Yeah,
of command
right.
versus following his passion,
But
so
he
to
would
speak.
rather still be rubbing elbows with engineers, still wearing the gold, still
Yeah,
getting
yeah,
greasy inside of a warp core, still being the chief engineer, not the whole captain. And honestly,
yeah.
when it comes down to it, when you're in the 24th century and we are amongst people who are not driven by power or money or things like that, what is the point of pushing yourself outside of being the chief engineer where you're the happiest in
Oh,
order to become captain of a starship? It's not like, well, I'm making more money, or, oh, well, any sort of thing that we
we
can relate to today, which would
it's we
inspire
better
such decision.
ourselves and society.
Right, and if his
I
bettering
forget, that's a quote from
himself,
one of the shows. I don't remember which one.
it's from Star Trek First Contact. We've got a more evolved sensibility. He was telling all that to Lily while they were on that dangerous stroll through the hallways looking for zombies, also known as Borg. It was a zombie movie. Come on, guys.
um,
With great music that they're still using today. Um, what else? What else? What else?
just a few miscellaneous
Oh,
things. I mean,
we can get into the discovery, Riker's discovery, because I have. You see, you're bringing the observations, the facts, and I'm bringing the heart, and I'm bringing the
okay,
emotions.
okay,
I'm bringing what I feel when I'm watching this
okay.
thing, right? And I am so happy that they took one of my least favorite things to ever be in a Star Trek episode, which is that whistling sequence from Encounter at Farpoint.
Oh,
The bad whistling, the pop goes the weasel, the fascinating. That is not Data. That is not the Data that we know. That's a completely that's it's a really strange writing and characterization.
yeah.
Before they figured out who these people are, I never liked that sequence. I've never liked that holodeck thing with Wesley falling into the river with the loose rock. I've never liked it, guys. I'm so sorry to hate on it, but it's no good. And then they made it important. They made it a cherished memory of mine now.
Hmm.
I don't know what to say other than thank you, Terry Metalis,
Yes. I I
for
never.
legitimizing the first season of Next Gen to a degree, for taking this ridiculous pop goes the weasel moment and turning it into Riker going, oh, I know what this is. This is all of these things are lining up to me being very excited to open this next door, you guys, because you guess who's behind this door? Guess what? Guess what? This is my best friend. This is my good friend. Everybody, I want you to meet Data.
I loved I loved how they ended up incorporating Moriarty. Even Riker pointing out, he's like, "This is
This is like,
not the sentient
and then I also,
Moriarty that we know."
and now people can't go, well, he's older now. Why is he older? He's a hologram. It's not the same hologram.
Yeah, the and for all we know, he really the original really is there somewhere else, and
Somewhere.
Data was Data was using a copy.
Right.
Um, so, but anyway, I would not have guessed the whole Pop Goes the Weasel thing
No.
until they got to the segment where they do the flashback and Riker stands on the wobbly rock. And it was those couple of notes, and I'm like, oh, I know where they're going now. Those individual one-off discordant
Yeah.
notes
Yeah.
was like, what are they doing?
No, I didn't get it until they showed that first flashback moment, and when I did, I went, "Pop goes the weasel." This is him realizing what this is. Now now this is almost what I predicted last week. I'm like, they plugged lore into this thing, man. Lore is the AI, and he is to a degree. But I guess that means when they said they disassembled lore, they actually threw him into the wood chipper as well. Because I don't know where his body is anymore, but I guess his
Well,
mind.
when we left him in Descent in Next Gen, he was simply just turned off.
Yeah, I think they had said at some point too that he had been disassembled,
Yes.
put in a drawer, just like B4 from the first season of Picard. So I don't know if his body's still around and if that's going to come to play or not. But that's fine if it doesn't. I'm happy to see where this goes. I'm I'm excited. I don't know if I'm concerned. I was concerned at the beginning of the episode because I wasn't sure if they were going to be able to continue the momentum that they had from the Nebula chapter.
Yeah.
And they did. Oh my God, have they?
So are we missing?
Well, we haven't
We've
talked about the
gotten.
end of the episode yet. We haven't talked about.
Oh yeah.
We haven't. Well, goodness gracious.
Oh,
What else?
totally out of where I wanted to point it
We
out.
haven't talked about the projecting eyes. We haven't talked about just goofy action-loving Captain Kirk / Picard.
The I noticed from one of the previously on Star Trek Picard, I always have the closed captions turned on.
Yeah.
If I got my hearing tested right now, I'm sure it would be average. But
I just
I
have to have the
also get
captions.
distracted very easily.
Yeah.
So I usually have the when I'm watching something by myself, I almost always have the closed captions on because I can shift my focus between reading dialogue and seeing visuals.
I understand things better. I understand the plot better. I
Yes.
understand motivations better when I can see the exact words that these people are saying.
Yes, exactly. So there was a scene where Vatic was communicating back to her link, their link, and the closed captioning titled the entity that was talking to her just as face.
Ooh.
And I'm like, now I need to know if they're going to keep calling this thing face, or if that was just they never told the closed captioning person what name or description to call it, and they just filled it in.
From my understanding, they get notes. And so I would assume then that face is what this thing is referred to in the script.
Yeah. So anyway,
Yeah. Oh,
it
that's
didn't
neat.
come up this it didn't come up this episode, but
Vatic did though. Vatic. Oof. Just vaporizing people and kidnapping Riker.
I know, just left and right.
Just nothing. Just not. I'm happy that he got kidnapped and not killed because I'm like, no, Riker, don't go out there into the hallway and shoot the bad guys, giving everybody enough time to beam away with new data. Don't do that. And then good, he didn't die. He didn't get shot up. He got shot down. Take
Oh, I
advantage.
loved the how much of this goose shit did they fill you up with? Whack. And then he's still grinning. I'm like, just the defiant
Yes.
nature of Will Riker of
He's such a
oh,
badass.
I loved it.
72-year-old badass. I love it. Um, so over under. What are you betting on? You're going to Vegas and you're putting your money down on Troy is a changeling or Troy has been legit kidnapped and that's actually her.
I don't know. I think if they had spent any more time on Will seeing Deanna, if they had spent 1 or 2 seconds more, it would have been just so much more difficult to sell whether or not this is Deanna Troy or this is just another changeling trick. Um, I could definitely see her first reaction being to it's like I tried to tell you.
Well, you got kidnapped too.
Yeah, but at the same time, it's like we've seen changelings in Picard be able to pass themselves off because they knew enough surface level information to get. It's like I'll mention this and let's move on to the next thing.
Yes, move on quickly. Captain or
So
Commander Hansen.
yeah, exactly.
uh, um, uh, I'm betting on both. They have her and someone is posing as her.
Oh, okay,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. Because then Riker will be like, I don't know. Are you're familiar with Babylon 5? You familiar with Babylon 5?
It's been so long. I watched a lot of it,
Mm-hmm.
but it's been so long
I've
since
got a
I've seen.
great story about Babylon 5. I know it has nothing to do with Star Trek, but who cares? People come here to watch us talk. Um, So I started watching Babylon 5 only recently. Like I want to say in the
Okay,
last 3 years or so, I watched the whole thing because it was on Amazon and I had time. It was the pandemic and I had nothing to do other than watch TV. So it was on Amazon and I was watching through it and I got finished with the first season at the same time a month ended. So I finished at like the end of February. And so
okay.
on March 1st, I went to go start season 2 and they had put up a paywall when February ended and March started.
Oh,
And I'm like, I'm not going to pay $24 per season. I'm not that invested in this. This was just a little neat little thing for me to do, but I'm not going to ultimately pay, $100 to watch the rest of Babylon 5. It didn't mean that much to me. So I posted on Facebook about it. And my old wrestling buddy, Venice DeMarco, said, what's your address? I'm going to send you something. And I didn't think anything of it. I thought, my birthday's coming. I'm always thinking of me. He found some sort of trinket from wrestling or something. He wants to send it to my house. So I give him my address. And a few weeks later, the box set of Babylon 5 on DVD shows up at my doorstep.
oh wow.
Because he was like, this is one of my favorite sci-fi shows of all time. I saw that you had posted online that you weren't able to finish it because of Amazon. I want you to finish it. Here it is. So awesome. Thank you very much. I still have it. It's over here in the corner. I don't have a DVD player right now. If I did, I'd probably watch it every once in a while. So I got the box set of Babylon 5. Watched the whole thing. Good times. Maybe one day, you can do a rewatch of some of the best bits and we can have a little nerd chat about it at some point.
Okay.
But all of this to say, there's this episode in the last season of B5 where they are going up against the bad guys, and Captain Sheridan has been kidnapped and thrown in a government prison in which they do psychological things to him, where the guy shows up and basically uh, try to make this succinct here because that other part of the story was very long. Basically, it comes down to the interviewer comes in and asks him a bunch of questions about what's going on. Ultimately, the interviewer gives him an opportunity to escape. He takes the chance to escape. The interviewer dies. They throw him back in the gulag, and another guy shows up saying, "So you've been here for about 24 hours. How do you feel?" And when you get to the end of that episode, you realize, how many times has he gone through this? He has no idea if he's been here for 24 hours or all that kind of stuff. I did a terrible job of explaining it. Go back and watch the episode at some point. But the whole idea is the psychological torture of not knowing. Have I been here for a month? Have I been here for a day? I'm very confused now by all of the different stimulus that's around me. Do I actually have Deanna Troy here in this cell with me? Why would she be in this cell with me? She must actually be a changeling. This makes no sense. That would be they would leave us together to try to plot an escape. Or is she real? She's talking to me about Kestra. She's trying to get to the bottom of my grief with Thaddeus. She said this thing about this trip that we took 6 years ago that makes me think, oh no, this is my wife. But then again, I haven't seen her eat anything the entire time that we've been here. How come she disappears every 16 hours? Like, I would love to see that.
There could be the whole, again, going back to Farpoint, where they are first reunited, and Deanna says to him, "Do you remember what I taught you?" And she's speaking to him telepathically.
Right.
So that, to me, that would be a clear indication that he's speaking with the humanoid Beta Z. Organic.
That's a good question, and that's a good observation here, because Encounter at Farpoint has played into several things so far. Like, they've reached back to the very first episode of The Next Generation in order to tell this supposed final adventure of this crew. Pop Goes the Weasel, the Farpoint aliens being born in the nebula, the direct reference to, Farpoint, that Crusher said, I think that's an interesting note. That's something that we should be aware of. And Troy, the telepathy of Troy is something that they abandoned after that first episode. They said not telepathic, just empathic.
So well, I mean, there was still, every time Mom came on board.
But that's because Majel, Loxana was full Betazoid, fully telepathic. She, from my understanding, she'd be able to beam her thought into anybody's head. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's just because Deanna's half Beta's head, she's able to hear the telepathic message.
Well, she was able to
broadcast
the child. I don't know if her and Ian ever actually spoke telepathically, but she did notice that they did make the point of her being aware of his consciousness before he was born.
Okay, so maybe it's just something that she can only do to other Betazoids. The telepathic part of her heritage only works with Betazoids, while cool other Betazoids could talk to anybody who has telepath. I don't know. Comment down below with what the actual thing is. We're wild here. Anyway, that whole point, all of that just to set up, since they have already established that Troy and Riker can communicate telepathically, I think that's a great note, especially since they haven't done it since. To have that be something that comes up again to kind of help them in a pinch, or to legitimize that I'm not a changeling, or I would like the word Imzadi to come up, because I think they've used it this season to remind us that it's a thing.
Maybe it was in fact, Frakes spoke about that at the convention yesterday, about when he was recording that scene, about how the emotion is very different when Marina is in the room or not. Just because of all the years of working together and stuff like that. But he said he actually felt himself getting a bit worked up writing this letter to Deanna, saying, it's like, I'm about to go into battle. I might not come back. Know that, I'm sorry if I hurt you, but I love you always. Blah 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 blah.
To be an actor. Oh God, to be an actor. It's not something that I've been able to necessarily relate to in my own real life yet, beyond like playing Dungeons and Dragons, as dorky as that is, like running a D&D game. It's
So,
it
yeah, talk about getting into some messed up situations.
Yeah, very easily done in
Yes,
Dungeons and Dragons.
yes.
So as a dungeon master, a life DM, as you will, like I'm never a player anymore. It's fine. I'm not complaining. I'm just stating facts. Um, that is a world that you can live in. 7 days a week if you wanted to, because it's
Hmm.
yours, and you're constantly thinking about, oh, what if the players do this? What is the villain doing here, and all that kind of stuff. Um, so that's like my only insight into what it might be like to be an actor who's played a role for 35 years or 40 years, like Jonathan Frakes, who is able to have a completely solo scene on a set, on a soundstage, with a bunch of crew and cameras and lights and cables and marks on the ground and all kinds of other stuff that they're going to digitally edit out. There's a blue screen outside the window instead of the stars. And to be able to put yourself in that world, in that realm, in the heart of somebody who's been in love with this other fictional character for the
Hmm.
entire time that we've known them
Hmm.
is amazing, a
Yeah,
talent, and must be one of the most unique experiences that a human being can have.
yeah. Well, he even again he brought it up yesterday, where it's like he's had some starstruck moments of working with these other actors that we're seeing this season,
Mm-hmm.
where he has caught himself sometimes watching them do their thing and being like, and just amazed at just their craft. So it's awesome to hear that these people that have known each other for over 30 years can still, like I said, still have those little starstruck moments with one another and watching them perform.
If this
So
isn't a backdoor pilot for Jack and Sydney and some of these other younger characters, so to speak, to come together for another series, they're missing out. They're missing out.
I've heard Star Trek Legacy thrown around a few times.
That I think that's what Terry Matalas said that he would call the show potentially
Yeah,
if it were to ever happen. If they were to
yeah.
take Picard and then spin it off into a Golden Girls hotel type of
Oh my gosh.
where it's the same show but the next part.
Oh
The
my!
Golden
Does that
Palace.
wait? Does that make Picard Dorothy?
Uh, Sophia. He's just so goofy. He's just
All
so
right.
goofy. He's goofy Picard. Those were
Anyway.
the days.
Oh
Human positronic, no off switch. That's a good observation. They can't just turn off lore. They're gonna have to phaser
yeah,
him.
yeah.
I guess we can end the podcast talking about the ridiculousness of projection eyes coming out of this android. I thought
That
he was a human. I don't understand the projection eye.
yeah. Well, there's still some positronicities. There's clearly
There's
tech.
still
It's
some
not
tech
all
in there.
biological.
Oh
But
god. Oh goodness
how do you
gracious.
pluralize positronic?
Positri? I don't know. Positronics.
Um. So anyway, but yeah, the that just seemed. And again, I don't know if it was like one of those things where they're like, "Can we do this? Can we get away with it?" And maybe the decision came down to, "We don't care how cheesy it is. We're going to do it."
Ugh. I wish that
Um,
they had just had him like plug his finger into a
well,
console or something. I would have taken that better than the projection eyes.
when we were, but again, yeah, it's just so weird. This whole blending of organic and technology.
It's because they haven't
The
established the rules. We don't know what to expect.
Yeah, the he kept saying Jean Luc, and
Mm.
I was with Worf. I'm like, can we turn him off and on again? And
We need to
I was
reboot him.
really thinking that's what it was. It was a glitch. It was
Nah, man, I took it as they
no.
took
He's
Jean Luc
giving
the
you
entire
the answer.
time.
He's telling you exactly. He's giving you the answer of the
Yeah.
question you keep
What'd you
asking.
say? Jean Luc Picard. Yeah, I thought
But like
that.
so,
I
yeah,
thought that
question eyes was
immediately, only because I had gone back 2 times to see who that body was, and it was James T. Kirk, right? And I'm like, and then
there. Oh
I
yeah,
paused it. I freeze framed on it too, and I'm like, is there vitals? Are they trying to suggest that like they kept his body alive in some way? There wasn't, but they just prevented it from decomposing.
yeah.
I assume because there was still like muscular structure and veins and stuff in the
Hmm.
diagram, and so because of all of that, when he's like, "Well, what they take Jean-Luc Picard?" I'm like, "Oh, they took Picard's original body."
Hmm.
So I immediately picked up on that because I'm not a dummy. I'm sorry, I'm kidding. No, I immediately picked up on that only because I had just been living in that moment with Kirk.
Yeah.
before, and it just now it just makes me wonder. Okay, so now this is answering some of the questions from the closing sequence. Okay, why do we have Klingon writing? Because we stole the cloaking device off of a Klingon ship and we didn't put it back. The Titan can cloak now for the rest of the season.
Well, we'll see.
That thing
Who
didn't
knows?
short.
The Geordi has been the next gen miracle worker,
Yes,
but at the same time, who knows? It may push the limits of the existing technology.
they'll just say, "Oh, short it out in between episodes." Um,
Yes.
we can't get it working again, Captain. Sorry. Um, so what? I don't know. I was saying something about them having a cloaking device, and that's cool. I don't remember where I was trying to go with that. Welcome to my life, man. Sometimes thoughts just fall right out of my ears. They never make it to my mouth. Ridiculous. So sad. Oh yeah, the closing credits. All right, so we got the cloaking device, we got the Klingon writing. We know that what that references to, and now that they took Picard's body, I mean, he's not alive inside that vessel anymore. There must be something about the body itself that
The
matters.
the
Something in
yes.
his genetic code, so to speak. Something that was
Um.
passed on to Jack. Something that gives the carrier irromatic syndrome,
The
even at the ripe
big
old age of 32/24.
the big the big conspiracy. There's two big conspiracy theories regarding Picard's body being the bounty, the big thing that was taken. One is there are still traces of Borg technology from Locutus.
Okay.
And then two was why was Jean Luc's Ironic syndrome uh, experience so much different from Jack's? Picard lived his entire biological life with virtually no symptoms except for some hallucinations, but we know Q was involved in him hopping from time to time to time and all good things. So who's to say that Q
We
wasn't
never really saw it
tempering
play out in
some of
any of the
that?
stories, really, that we
Yeah.
saw depicted.
Whereas Jack is having full experience, audio, uh, trying to separate my senses and I can't think
I
of the
know, I
proper
can't
terms,
say things either. I
but
get it.
he's seeing things.
Yeah.
It seems like he's hearing things. Is he smelling and tasting things? I'm not sure. Um, but he is definitely having a fully immersed um,
Yeah.
sessions, instances, and stuff like that.
So, I always took that syndrome as something that affected you when you're old, like, some sort of Star Trek dementia, right? But that's not the
Well,
case. That's not the case. And if you go back even to the original dialogue, they don't really explain it that way either. They're just like, we
yeah,
found this defect with your brain that could lead to this disease at some point. Some people
yes,
live decades and decades and decades without any symptoms, other
uh-huh.
people don't. So in this case, they're definitely following that diagnosis to a T. Picard lived decades and decades and decades
Mhm.
with this thing barely affecting him, and Jack is not near as lucky. Or so they're saying.
Yeah.
There's no way this red door hallucination nonsense is just aromatic syndrome, and if it is, what a swerve! What a twist! I would not have
I'll
expected
throw
that.
it. I'll throw another layer onto it. Was there a remnant of Borg technology that got passed on from Jean Luc to Jack that changed something
Are you talking
about that
like
defect?
assimilated sperm?
Why not? They're tiny. They're
It's true.
nanobots.
It's true. It's true. It's true. See,
But anyway,
I said that as a joke, and you're like, yes, that's exactly what I.
we're in the writer's room.
Yeah, why
I'm
not?
like,
Why not?
this
Let's
has
go
already
write it.
been written
We're gonna
down.
write it down. Okay, we're gonna write assimilated sperm. All right, moving on. Okay.
We've moved past that point.
Oh my god. Maybe. So yes. They have mentioned several times about Locutus and the Borg thing, and that's Shaw's whole core to his story
Yeah.
is the Locutus thing. On top of that, they reminded us 2 or 3 times that Picard is in a new body before showing the fact that his original one was taken. It seems as though almost, if not everything, that is put into these episodes is on purpose and for something.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, Locutus and the Borg has to come up in some way other than it just being a part of the character's histories. Just because evidence has shown that's not the case. Pretty much anything they've talked about has come to pass. How'd you survive it? I didn't. I'm just a copy of that original guy.
Yeah, I could keep going on about this last episode. These little moments
I
and
mean, the little
lines and
moments
stuff.
is exactly why we're doing this show, you know, to talk about the, but we don't need to do it for 17 hours, that's for sure. We hit all the big things here, you know. Just
Yeah.
remember to keep all food and beverages outside of the research areas of Daystrom Station. Um, Burgle, you know, that's I'm just going through your notes here. That was in the clip that I watched last week because they put a minute and a half clip of the episodes up on YouTube before the new episodes. And last week it was the meeting in which I think the last line was, "That's an excellent word use of the word burgle, sir."
Oh, we didn't even get into the whole Rocky 7 thing.
Da-da-da.
So
Oh,
we
oh,
can maybe
Rafi
hopefully.
7. I heard Rocky 7.
Oh, no, sorry. Completely different.
That's different. That's different.
Um,
I
but
don't
no, yeah,
know.
but hopefully we'll have a
They're
chance to
like,
talk about
I
that.
mean, they were like, oh hey, and then they moved on. You know, like when it comes down to it, I think that I'm with the majority of the fan base where I was just never invested in that relationship anyway. So they can just be like exes that didn't work out that still kind of care for each other but aren't going to date anymore. I'm totally okay with that.
Yeah, mixed. I have mixed feelings.
I
But
know
again, like I
you want
said,
them to run off and be happily ever after because you just want gay romance to work every time.
well, yes and no. I understand the complexities that both of their characters have. But I don't want it to, I don't want that to be the last time we talk about it.
I understand. I
I
guess they
want
can
there to
have
be a
one
little,
more
this is why we got
conversation.
here.
One more conversation. You know, it just didn't work out. Another theme amongst family. You know, this is an aspect of family too. You know, relationships based in love and with real love that exists between two people that just doesn't work out in proximity to each other.
Hmm.
Picard and Beverly are great examples of that, of people
Yeah.
that genuinely care deeply for one another, but anytime that they try it, it doesn't work.
Hmm. Hmm.
Could be the same thing with Seven and Rafi, you know, genuine
Yeah.
care between them, but every time they've tried it, it just doesn't work,
Yeah.
you know? And now we're going to find out that it just doesn't work between Riker and Troy, and everybody's going to be so sad. No,
No,
it's going
no,
to be
no,
fine.
no,
They're
no.
the ones with
Not for
kids.
not for putting up with that on again, off again
No, they're
through
going to
the
be fine.
entire series into the movies.
I would say if there's any two characters that are safe to survive to the end of this series, it is Riker and Troy.
Better
Everybody
be.
else, danger.
Yeah. Okay. I'll take that. I'll accept that.
Yeah, but that was it. That was Picard season three, episode 6, The Bounty, which could have referred to the bounty of these characters, the bounty of Picard's body, the HMS Bounty itself. What's the next episode? Dominion, you said it was?
Oh no, I didn't. I didn't.
Oh,
Sorry,
I think you
didn't look
did.
it up.
You did. You sent me a text message. You're like, ooh,
Oh, I
exciting.
did.
Dominion. Anyway,
Well,
I
it
don't know
wasn't in
what
my
that is.
notes. That's why I didn't remember it.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, you sent me a text message, something about the next episode, and then you used the word Dominion
Oh,
in quotation marks. So I assume that was the name of the next episode.
yes, yes. Okay, so yes, I do remember because I was barreling through the episode trying to get notes and stuff because I didn't know what travel times were going to be
It's all
like or anything.
good. So if that's the case, then I'm excited because I love the Dominion and I want to find out the Founders side of things. And I think that's, you know, with Riker kidnapped and in a cell with Troy, this is the episode in which we're going to be able to develop the antagonists. We're going to be able to find out what their motivations are and what they're up to. Because at the end of every one of these episodes, I'm always like, what the hell is going on?
Yeah. Well, if we're gonna bring the prophets and the Pa wraiths into this, I think it's now is the time to bring them
I
in.
didn't even think about them. I was just thinking about the Dominion. Like, so, God, are the wormhole aliens still invested? Are the prophets? Because the prophets don't care much past Bajor. You know, they are of
No,
Bajor. But they didn't
but
ever stop
Cisco brought a new element back to
he
them.
did, he did. And but the prophets only stopped the Dominion one time, and that was when Cisco was like, "Come on, you gotta for me, please." And they're like, "Yeah, all right, but then you're gonna have to like join us in a year, and you're gonna hate it." And he's like, "Just do it." And then they did. But that was like the only time they got involved.
Are the Pa wraiths the reason why the changelings look the way they do
God,
and
I wish we
act?
didn't recently lose Louise Fletcher.
Oh my
You
gosh.
know,
Well, they did kind of. Well, they I mean they killed her character in
that
the
doesn't. Yeah,
series
well, yeah, but
anyway.
that doesn't. You know, but in a wormhole alien vision, in a prophet's vision, You're not limited to who's dead and who's alive
That's
in the
true.
Star
That's
Trek
true.
universe. You
We
know,
could still, yeah.
Cisco saw Opaka 2 years after she died in a
That's true.
vision. You know, oh God, Opaka. What also a good character.
Yeah.
She was only on like 3 times, and I just love her so. Anyway,
Oh my
anyway,
gosh. Yeah.
anyway. That's it. We're getting back on the turbolift doors. We're gonna go back down to, I don't know, our quarters or something. There's no parking garages and starships, so I don't really know how to end it like the other one. But join us next week. You know, we're going to talk about Star Trek Picard, Season 3, Episode 7, Dominion. I know, it was wrapping up quicker than we want it to be. And there's no announcement, too, as to what's coming next when it comes to the Star Trek series, as to what they're going to broadcast. I think that they're filming Strange New Worlds. They're filming Discovery. I just don't know what the release dates are for those.
Yeah, correct.
And I don't know how far they are in animating Lower Decks or anything like that either. Prodigy, you know. And then what's going to fill the void in Picard? What show is going to be launched? Because I said they didn't want to have more than the shows that they had on right now, and they were waiting for one of them to end.
They've made us wait before.
I think that Michelle Yeoh's star rose a little too prominently for them to be able to successfully do their Giorgio Section 31 show that they had attended on.
Oh, I'd watch the crap out of that.
I would watch the crap out of it too, but after you've won an Oscar and is in one of the biggest movies of like the last decade, you become really expensive.
She may have succeeded herself outside of their budget.
It's entirely possible, you know, and also time too. Do you have time to dedicate yourself to you know, film these 10 episodes for this season when you could be making 3 more movies? I don't know. I don't know. I'm not Michelle Yeoh. I don't know what she likes. I don't know what she loves, and I don't know where her passions lie. When it comes to actors in Hollywood, anything is game now. You know, it's not like that joke from 30 Rock anymore, where if you want to go into obscurity, do TV. You know, like.
No.
You could do movies, you could do TV, you could do streaming, you could do Twitch. It doesn't matter. You could do whatever you want now. So, Michelle, Love it. You still have my personal invite. I know you're watching. Hey, Michelle. You have my personal invite to come back and continue to do Star Trek. Even if the last thing you did was walk into the giant donut, you can still come back. That was a neat thing, okay? I am the guardian of forever.
And who was that? Who was the actor?
That was Jim Brass from CSI.
Okay.
I don't know the actor's name.
I know him for something.
Paul Golifoyle or something. I know him primarily as Jim Brass from CSI.
Okay.
Yeah. Anyway. Goodbye. I'm beaming out. Oh, that'd be a cool effect. I need to find an effect where I push a button and we just beam away, and that's the end of the episode. Oh man, how do I do that? I need a green screen. You already have one.
We'll figure it out by episode 9.
I'm going to need you to do some heavy research on it. You got more time than I do.
Yeah, that's true.
All right, we'll figure it out. All right, guys. And girls. And whatever. You know, I don't know. I'm trying to be nice here. Please don't comment about me being mean. Have a great time. We'll see you next time. I don't know how to end this thing. I'm just rambling now. I'm going to push the button. Goodbye. Goodbye.